Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Driven Wyld. Today we are talking about DoorDash won't let you tip NYC drivers without the app. So recently I saw this article pop up on the Behind the Wheel Discord server, which is a Discord server dedicated to the gig community without being attached to any specific content creator. And this article is explaining how in New York City, which the minimum hourly pay rate has been implemented, DoorDash has now made it even harder for drivers to actually be tipped. The one thing that made drivers actually make money on the platform. They took away upfront tipping, and they also make it incredibly hard to tip after as well. So with that said, we are talking about everything that's being said in this article, how it actually is for DoorDash, UberEats, and Grubhub drivers and customers in New York City and everything in between. So with that said, let's get started. Last week, I placed a big dinner order for myself and several friends through DoorDash. There was no way to add a tip when I placed my order, but I wasn't too worried. DoorDash assured me I'd be able to tip after the order was placed or delivered. And you believed a company that's been lying to their drivers and customers for years. That makes perfect sense. It was the first time I had used the service since last November, and since then, DoorDash has made some big changes in protest to a New York City law guaranteeing a minimum wage for delivery drivers. The platform removed the ability to add a tip when you place an order. Now, in New York City, customers like myself who want to continue tipping must do so after the order is placed. So, for all of the no-tip haters in America right now, and there are significant numbers of them, don't get it twisted, there are still good customers that want to treat drivers right, and now they're taking away drivers' ability to earn extra income, basically. You know, the entire purpose of DoorDash. And also, think about how inconvenient it is to tip your driver after as well. Like, on a systematic level, first off, you go into the app and you basically place your order, right? Now you have to wait until your order is delivered to add the tip. Now, by the time you get your order, you're hungry because, you know, that's the entire purpose of you ordering in the first place. You're mentally checked out. And let's say you weren't mentally checked out. You also have to go back into the app where you have to delay your hunger even more to add the tip then. That makes no sense. I get people's gripes of not tipping at a coffee shop. Fine. If you don't want to tip at a coffee shop, I'm not even going to argue with you. But claiming that you would tip after service at the coffee shop, when in reality, most people don't have cash, number one, and number two, what were you gonna do? Swipe your card again only for it to charge you more at that point? No! So systematically, it makes the service, which is supposed to be a convenience, very inconvenient. It wasn't until I went back to add a tip to that dinner that I realized just how difficult DoorDash has made the process, even after initial payment. On the DoorDash website, I scoured my receipt and past order pages for a way to add gratuity. I looked through my confirmation email for an add a tip option. Nothing. So not only did they make it impossible to tip before service, they are also making it incredibly hard to tip after service. Basically, it confirms our overall suspicions that DoorDash is trying to manipulate how much you're making on the platform, but it has also ruined the overall system in New York City. Do you know how many drivers have just abruptly left New York City and just started commuting to Jersey City, Westchester, Long Island, literally anywhere where this law isn't imposed on them, so that way they can actually make money on these platforms? It's embarrassing. The only way I was able to add a tip was by messaging DoorDash support through a chat and asking for a tip to be added manually. Annoyed, I asked why there was no tip option after payment to add on gratuity to the person hand delivering food to me, and got a vague answer about how DoorDash was doing system updates. The chat was then abruptly ended. You expect DoorDash support to actually tell you and be straight with you on how the system works? They're scumbags in every way. Also, can we acknowledge for a second on how so many people were like,
I tip after service. Why should I tip you? I don't think I should tip you. Get a real job.
And now that it's literally proven that you not only won't tip after service, the app makes it so that you can't tip after service, or make it so it's really difficult to tip after service. And because your articles are literally dedicated to getting views, where your position on this was,
Tipping culture is out of control. They're trying to add gratuity screens to everything.
now that that gratuity screen is away, you're like,
Oh, now I don't even have the option to tip my driver. What's going on?
can you pick a lane? Like, seriously. Tell me you're doing this for the views without telling me you're doing this for the views. This article is literally on par for what we're going for as gig workers, like the message we're trying to get across. But we all know that you're not doing this for the benefit of gig workers. You're doing it for the benefit of your pocket. A test by another Verge reporter found similar hurdles to tipping. On the Doordash app, the add tip option was near the top when viewing a past order, but on the web, the option is nowhere to be found. I don't have the Doordash app and don't want it, but I would like to have an easy way to add a tip for my drivers. Which is it? Which is it? Do you want the gratuity screen in front of you, or do you not want the gratuity screen in front of you? Pick one! This is where it gets annoying to me. There are so many people. Do you know how many people were annoyed at the entire prospect of having a gratuity screen in front of them? And then at the end of it, they are bitching about it not being there. This is giving so much toxic vibes, I can't even. Doordash has a sprawling presence even beyond its own app. Some restaurants use the company's infrastructure for their own sites to process orders. It's not always obvious that DoorDash is involved, but delivery drivers could miss out on tips if there are hurdles to add gratuity. Take the online ordering page for Han Dynasty, a restaurant in Brooklyn that uses DoorDash. There's no tip option at checkout. There's also no mention of the ability to add a tip after the fact. This is an interesting point that they're bringing up. So what they're describing is a DoorDash Drive feature where DoorDash can act as a white label program and people can use their own restaurants, such as Anthony's Coal Fire Pizza, Chipotle, they're the app, and use DoorDash in that way. But in this case, they can't do that. Why? Because there's no tip option for them either. That's crazy. DoorDash didn't immediately respond to my questions about whether this is a bug or a feature. You expect DoorDash to be transparent with you. That is too funny. DoorDash's move to bump tipping after ordering is the company's way of throwing a tantrum over the new $17.96 minimum hourly rate for delivery drivers. In announcing the change in how tips are given, DoorDash called New York City's law ill-conceived and extreme. Delivery workers previously earned about $7.09 an hour despite doing a dangerous and often thankless job. Okay, but that is not even almost accurate regardless. First off, the amount of money we were making was not $7.09 an hour. Let's get that fact right now. You're trying to add an employee solution to an independent contractor problem. We were making sometimes $25, $30, $40 an hour, and in New York City, I wouldn't be surprised if they were doing just that, especially with how much volume there is, and there's probably less expenses too. Think about it like this. In New York City, it is better to do delivery by e-bike or some sort of bike in general, as opposed to a car. They certainly aren't paying car maintenance. They're certainly not paying gas. That's all money right there. Less tax write-offs, but more money. Either way, $7.09, I guarantee you, most drivers were blowing that number away. Why do you think they all started leaving New York City? Why do you think they went from over 100,000, over 120,000 gig workers in New York City to now like 60K or something like that? Because everybody freaking left. Because it got that bad. Now, I'm not saying what DoorDash did was right. I'm not saying that the base pay shouldn't be higher. I'm not even saying that DoorDash is doing this in a way that's not controlling the gig workers. All of that is true. But this isn't the way to fix the problem. We know that tips are still an important way for consumers to show Dashers their appreciation, so consumers will still be able to tip after checkout and for up to 30 days after they order, the company wrote in its announcement about tipping changes. And yes, true, there's still a way to add a tip to your DoorDash order. The company will just make you go through hoops to do so. That is literally the epitome of the political answer. It's like, oh, sure, you could do it. Just fill out all of these forms, get all of these permits, and blah, blah, blah. That is the equivalent to how they're making the tipping system these days. Like, if I wanted to go through a bajillion hoop, like I'd try to get an extension on a house or something. In California, this is my opinion. It's worth what you pay for it. Then you pay me. There you go. Honestly, I feel like New York City laws are literally trying to make it that much harder for gig workers to survive in New York City. DoorDash is the one that took away the tipping option, but raising the minimum wage is never really the answer. Like, I love how people are like,
Raise the minimum wage! Raise the minimum wage!
when in California, they raised the minimum wage, and what happened? People were let go. They decided to have, instead of 5 workers working at a lower cost, they'll go like 2 workers, maybe 1 worker, to reduce their labor overall, and they will start to automate everything. If you go across the pond to England, where they also have done this, there's a cost of living crisis right now. A lot of people believe if they raise the minimum wage, it'll come out of the CEO's pockets. No. Cost is going to be imposed on the customer, and they're going to cut costs other ways, such as letting go fast food workers at fast food restaurants. I know that California is trying to boost up the cost of everything for fast food restaurants with their minimum wage, and what do? They started letting people go. They started making everything automated. There are less jobs available now. So raising the minimum wage isn't the answer here. But this is another great example of why you should be diversifying your gig portfolio, why you should be developing an exit strategy, because the gig economy is an income bridge to what would be a long-term goal and not the goal. This is a problem that we are being used as a tool with the government and the companies in question for them to fight over us, like mom and dad fighting over who gets custody of the kids, yet the kid is still getting so much trauma because of it. The only ones really affected by this is us. They're affected in different ways, but we're the ones taking the biggest hit. And in terms of the actual tipping process, I mean, the no-tip customers are still going to stay as the no-tip customers, as proven. Even the good customers that are trying to tip us better are having a world of problems doing so. And tipping is kind of done in New York City, so no wonder why people are just leaving. All in all, I really hope the best for New York City workers, or at least they are literally looking into a better way to make money, whether it's changing locations or maybe making money in another way, because right now they're the ones that are getting caught in the crossfire as well. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. As always, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.